Hi there. Today we're going to cover an introduction to affect. Let's get started. The key concept we're going to cover today is consumers experience a range of affective responses to products and marketing messages. You probably experienced this yourself, where at times maybe you've been really happy with a product. Other times maybe you've been angry because the product you expected to receive wasn't anything like what you got. Um, this happens a lot whenever we go, say, for example, out to eat. Sometimes you don't get what you expected at all. Sometimes you may experience disgust because what you received was actually pretty gross and made you sick. So there's lots of ways that, and lots of emotions and affective responses that consumers experience, not only with products and marketing messages, but also with services, service experiences, and the whole entire process of consumption decisions. So let's talk a little bit about the types of affective responses that we have as consumers. First, let's define affect. That's our emotional response to anything, such as a product, person, place, anything at all. That's our emotional response to it. And with affect, we have evaluations. These are valent, positive, or negative reactions to events, objects that are not accompanied by high levels of physiological arousal. So you could have a negative evaluation about something, but you don't react that strongly to. And you could have a positive, favorable evaluation of something that you don't have such a very strong emotional, physiological arousal. We also have moods. So, with moods, these are temporary positive or negative affective states accompanied by moderate levels of arousal. So, sometimes you're in a mood, right? Whenever maybe you had a bad day at work and that puts you in a bad mood. Maybe you had a fight with your partner and that puts you in a bad mood. Um, we oftentimes have different moods that accompany for different reasons, and those are oftentimes temporary, but they do come with a level of arousal. Mood congruency is the notion that purchase decisions are shaped by our mood. So if you're happier, you're in a happier mood, you're going to make different purchases than if you're in a more negative, mad, irritated mood. We also have what's called emotions, and many of us have experienced different emotions throughout our lifetime. These are intense, and these often relate to a specific triggering event. So you experience emotions and many times throughout the day, right? Based off of the things that are going on in your life. So, for example, if we use maybe you had a bad day at work, uh, and you're in a bad mood because of that, well, typically that's triggered by some specific reason. Maybe your boss yelled at you, or maybe you didn't meet your performance goals, or something of that nature that really caused an emotional reaction in you that maybe you were sad, maybe you were upset because of that. Maybe you were mad because you got yelled at, or maybe you were mad that you didn't hit your goals. There's lots of emotional responses you could have. And we have emotional responses to products and people and services and experiences as well. And some examples are happiness, anger, and fear. So, with positive affect, we can think of one type of affect is what's called love mark. And this is a passionate commitment to one brand. Um, I really like Apple products. I'm pretty committed to Apple products. I have Mac computer. It's an older Mac computer. I need to get a new one, but it's one that I use quite often. I've been using it for 5, 6 years, and it does what I need it to do. I also have iPhone. I have an Apple Watch. Granted, I didn't purchase the Apple Watch, but I really do like my Apple Watch. I like the fact that it integrates with my iPhone. So I really am probably, I would say I have a love mark with Apple because I really like their brand. I'm not going to switch. I'm not going to get an Android phone. Um, we also have happiness, that's positive emotions, that mental state. And there's this notion of the happiness economy. And the happiness economy has to do with a new wealth. Instead of being focused on having monetary wealth, right? The idea is that through our jobs or the incomes that we do have, that maybe there's some that while we trade off less income, we might be achieving greater well-being, better time use, uh, we're healthier, and maybe our standard of living, while we may make less money, it may actually be better because we're not trading off our time and our health for a job that we may not necessarily enjoy as much as we do our time and our health and our well-being, considering those aspects. However, oftentimes, as consumers, especially in the United States, we're wired to engage in material accumulation. And this is the instinct to earn more than we can possibly consume. And this imbalance can make us unhappy because with this material accumulation, a lot of people have tried to accumulate so much and earn so much that they tend to neglect maybe certain areas of their life that would actually help them out more. Like they neglect their weight, right? They don't go work out, they don't take care of themselves, and it could be cause them to have an unhappier life. So there's been a trend lately, minimalism, right? Many of us have probably seen that, where people have tried to live a minimalist lifestyle, where they start reducing their clutter, reducing the amount that they purchase, and really try to forego this material accumulation lifestyle. We also have negative affect, and advertisers are actually realizing that it can be productive to elicit negative feelings to get their message across. There's the notion of sadvertising, and this is where a advertiser uses inspirational stories to manipulate our emotions like a roller coaster. So it starts off kind of happy, right? But maybe there's something that happens in the ad that makes you kind of sad, but then ends with something on a positive note. So it takes you on that roller coaster of emotions, and that gets you really more connected to that brand. There's also brands that they might try to uh, invoke feelings of disgust, and that's your aversion towards something. And this feeling of disgust may have evolved to protect us from contamination. And this could be unintended, right? A brand could accidentally invoke feelings of disgust among their consumers. It may not be what they intended from their advertisement, but it does happen. And I'm going to post a video in the learning modules that has an unintended ad that invoked disgust. You can judge for yourself, invoke disgust among consumers. They weren't trying to make you feel disgusted, but in previous classes, most students have agreed that it's a pretty disgusting advertisement. So the last thing that we're going to cover is a few other negative affect considerations. One is envy, and this is associated with the desire to reduce the gap between oneself and someone who is superior on some dimension. So we have what's called benign envy, and this is when a consumer believes another person deserves a coveted brand, like an iPhone. We also have malicious envy, and this is when a consumer believes another person does not deserve his or her superior position. We also have guilt, and this is associated with possible objections to his or her actions, inaction, circumstances, or intentions. And then we also have embarrassment, and this is driven by concern for what others think about us. I have a video on guilt that I'm going to post in our learning modules. This covers us for the introduction to affect. If you have questions about affect or would like to know more about any consumer behavior topic, please feel free to email me at kmanus@nmsu.edu. Thanks.